Welcome to the Men to Men podcast. I'm Malik Carey along with my co-host Brett Carroll. And today, Brett, we're gonna get a little heavy today. Tell me what we're talking about.
Yeah, this is something that keeps happening, man. It's over and over and over again, and it's almost unbelievable. And so this whole thing about gun violence is tragic. It's horrible. To me, man, it just reflects the fact that we live in a failed, inhumane, indecent, and negligent society. When you see these kind of things and hear these kind of things over and over and over again, to me, it just reeks of incompetence and the dysfunctionality, the systemic dysfunctionality of our government.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest, man. I'm tired of, let's have another moment of silence, right?
Yeah.
Let's send some prayers out to some family members who have lost loved ones behind negligence. So let's just look at, November 22nd, 2022, UVA, 3 people killed.
Yeah.
Right? Michigan State, February 13th, negligence, 3 people killed. This week, Nashville, 6 people killed. What pisses me off more than anything is you're talking about 3 young children, teachers who went to work, and then you come home and they all they wanted to do was go to school and learn, and they didn't know what they were facing for that day. And it's tragic, Brett, man. And again, I'm tired of another moment of silence.
Yeah, to me, gun violence is I just think it's despicable. I think when you look at the fact that anybody can get a gun and anybody can walk into any place, whether it's somebody's house, whether it's a school, whether it's a college, whether it's a university, whether it's a shopping center.
Yeah, right. We forgot about Texas.
Yeah.
Buffalo recently,
or even what happened out in Minnesota.
Right.
And you can shoot somebody, and you can shoot more than one person. You can just open fire, and that's tragic and horrible in itself. But I think what's even more tragic and what's even more horrible, what's even more despicable, what's even more unthinkable is the fact that there are people in this country who are in positions of authority and power, and to them, they think it's okay. To them, they think that guns are not the problem. That's insane, bro. That's insane.
I don't disagree. I do think that idiots with guns kill people.
Yeah.
I don't think a gun in itself is the problem.
Yeah.
But idiots with guns, people who are suffering, people who are just out the meme, and then what we talk about, and I'm glad you did say that, is the people who don't care, who are not making a law so tough that you can go just buy one. I mean, especially, I'm sorry about the Midwest and the West, and I mean, it's, open carry here and open carry there, and I think that's the point you're making when you say that, because the gun itself is a gun, right? I mean, but when you put it in the hands of wrong people, it's getting, I'm saying is, how do you allow someone to just take a weapon, and you don't know that someone just bought a whatever weapon it was, a semi-automatic weapon, and walked into a school? It's ridiculous. And that's what the irresponsibility of the government to be able to do that is what we're talking about.
Well, you know what? This whole thing about gun violence, it centers around 3 components. One is the offender, and we'll talk about the offender. The other is the villain, and we'll talk about the villain, and then the enablers. And obviously, at the end of the day, the ultimate outcome are the victims, and we'll talk about the victims as well. So I just want to real quickly touch upon, and this is just me. This is just my opinion. A gun can't pick itself up and fire itself. A gun can't go from point A to point B and all by itself attack somebody. It has to be done by people. It has to be done by these so-called offenders. And I think personally, gun violence has a lot to do with the mentality of the country we live in, and the mentality of the people that are here. And I'm talking about a group of people that see themselves as being, left behind. I'm talking about a group of people that see themselves as being desperate, for whatever reason, life didn't work out for them. And we're talking about those who are, I don't want to say entitled, but those who
say entitled. They are entitled.
Well, some are, but some are disenfranchised too.
Oh yeah.
And those who are disenfranchised think they're entitled or think they're supposed to be entitled, and so they become desperate. And then I think you have another group of offenders who are not just left behind, who are not just desperate, who are not just displaced or disconnected, but these are straight up haters. These are people who just have hate in them. They're racist, they're rednecks, they're anti-Semites, they're anti-everything except they're
brainwashed.
Except the white supremacists.
They're brainwashed. Yeah. And I think that the hater and the brainwash, they've become so conditioned to be, you got a whole society of people. That's all they talk about is guns. You know, I was out in Dallas last in February, and I was with a group of guys. Man, that's all they talked about was guns and hunting and guns and how many guns they got, and and most of them from the Midwest, in the West. It's that brainwash mentality that I need a gun and we need guns to protect ourselves and to defend ourselves from what?
Well, here's the whole thing. Hunting is one thing, and I'm not a hunter. I could care less about hunting, I'm not begrudging anybody who wants to hunt.
No.
That's a whole different thing. For me, for a grown man to take a gun and go out and shoot a deer, a rabbit, a raccoon, to me, that in itself, to me, says a whole lot about somebody. I'm not going to go there.
Right. Now, I'm talking about the one that you're saying we need to protect ourselves and we need to protect our country. And I'm saying from what?
Yeah, well, here's the whole thing, okay? A hater is somebody who wakes up every day, looks in the mirror, hates himself, and hates everybody around them. But you talked about brainwashed. I want to just talk about that for a minute. People who are brainwashed are people who are led to believe a false narrative. These are people who are taught from a young age to hate, to be violent, to do something about your hatred, to do something about the situation you're in, the situation that your family is in, because it's either you or me. And so you have these 12-year-olds, these 15-year-olds
that are brainwashed.
They're brainwashed.
I mean, their parents are brainwashing them from a young age, and you talked about it on, the rednecks and the
social media. Look at the social media sites, man, that are pumping all this crap into the minds of young people.
And you got to think about it, and we're going to talk about that in a little while when we start to talk about the mental health side of this. But I mean, when you start putting these kids and talking about these kids who are so young and so viable, right? The frontal lobe doesn't even mature until you're 26 years old, but you're telling, young people at 14, 15, 16 years old that it's okay to carry guns. It's okay to hate another race.
Well, it's not that it's okay. It's you must do it.
Right.
It's not, hey, Malik, it's okay to pick up a gun and go shoot some folks. It's okay for you to go over here and do this and do that. It's okay.
And they're not
telling people it's okay to do that. They're telling people to go do that.
Right.
They're telling
people, train you how to do it.
They're telling people that in order for you to be an American, in order for you to stand up for your country, in order for you to stand up for the history and for the legacy of this country, you got to go out and destroy everybody who does not
look like you
or think like you or have the same values and principles like you. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about brainwashed. And I think there's a big difference between somebody who's just filled with hate and somebody who's naive and vulnerable and gullible and just lost enough to allow somebody to allow social media, to allow other people, to allow ideologies to come in and pretty much rape them and rob them of their own ability to think for themselves. And so these people who are doing this stuff, man, these are soldiers, man. Mm-hmm. These are dudes who just, and the last perpetrator was a female.
Well, she wanted to be a male.
Oh, so I didn't even know that. But the point is, this is a woman walking in.
So she was posed as transgender. She was going over from being a woman to wanting to be a male. Okay, so we talking about some psychological stuff there.
Okay, we'll touch into that a little bit, man. But you know, the other thing, so you have these offenders, the people who are going out and doing this, but to me, the real villains, Malik, you know,
the gun manufacturers, the gun distributors, the gun retailers, and the government.
Yeah.
You know, and we talking about these gun manufacturers, you know, what are you as a gun manufacturer going out creating semi-automatics and putting them in the hands of human beings for anyway?
Money.
If this ain't war,
it's money.
It's money.
It's money.
Right. And so when I start to think about this,
that's okay. It's all right. Let me get my phone real quick. My bad. Sorry about that.
When I start to think about the gun manufacturers, and when I start to think about all of the people who are, you know, doing this thing here that is really, it's ridiculous, that you're creating these weapons of to me, we talk about weapons of mass destruction.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you're telling me that it's okay for me to put a gun in somebody's hand and to put a gun in somebody's that are young, who have never been trained for these weapons, to do these things. And then on top of that, you know, the gun distributors and the gun retailers who are selling these guns. And I know there's a whole black market, so I'm not gonna, but these are people who know, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And these are people who have been trained, who have been, you know, trained to dominate, trained to kill, and they know it. And so when I talk about this whole manufacturing thing, that's what I want to stay on. Again, that I'm manufacturing guns that, okay, I'm not selling them to the military, I'm selling them to human beings.
Right. And see, to your point, this when you listen, you know how back in the day in the 40s they were bootlegging liquor, and it was that prior to prohibition or prohibition, whatever you want to call it, where selling liquor was illegal. It was a system, right? It was a whole system. That's what this is. This is a system where you have somebody who makes it, you have somebody who distributes it, you have somebody who puts it in the hand of a retailer so that you and me and anybody else can walk in and buy a gun with almost little or no resistance, okay? Because it puts money in the pockets of everybody who touches that gun. And it's all about making money. It's all about a country that has a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what the outcome is 100 or so people are multimillionaires at the expense of the life of children,
right,
spouses, siblings, grandparents,
right,
and entire communities.
In entire communities, right. And you know, when we talk about this, and you talked about something, I want to go back even when you talked about the offending, you know, we talking about the brainwash, and we're not even talking about the mass shootings, but let's talk about what's going on in Chicago and what's going on in these inner cities, right? And you know, the hate that you're talking about. But when we talk about these gun retailers, you know, in the government, you know, they're literally just saying, hey, everyone should have a gun. You know, when I look at Florida and I look at Texas, Virginia, right? When we cross that Mason-Dixon line, everyone can carry a gun now, right? In the laws have been even more or less, hey, everyone can carry a gun now. These shootings, these mass shootings, are only things we're hearing about.
Right.
But there are more every day.
Right. And we don't hear about the ones that occur. Well, you know what? Let me take that back. We do hear about the ones every day. You know why? Because every time you turn on the local news,
Oh, yeah.
I don't care whether you're in New York, Philly, or D.C., I don't care where you are. You can travel, you can be on vacation. As soon as you turn that 5 or 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock news, first thing, second thing, third story is about how somebody shot somebody.
And they all look like us.
Yeah. And so this isn't a one color thing. This is a universal thing.
Yeah.
Because you got black people
Killing
taking out black people in the inner city.
Right.
You have white folks in rural America getting these assault weapons and doing this mass.
Right. And that goes back to the haters, the left behind, the
Yeah.
word, because we're looking at with the ones that are doing the mass shootings in those places, they've had something that happened to them that triggered them, that they feel like, I got to go back to this school or this place where I was hurt, offended, beat up, bullied, and go back and just take out a whole classroom.
And it goes back to this. Think about what you just said. I was neglected, beaten, bullied. Think about those words. Think about people doing that to people to the extent that you have now motivated me to walk down the street, to pick up a rifle, to pick up an assault weapon, to pick up a handgun or whatever. And I'm so devastated by that. I am planning. I am spending days and weeks think about. I'm planning
days, weeks, months, years.
I'm planning to take you out.
Right.
I'm planning to take you out. I'm planning to take out this group. I'm planning to take out my classmates. I'm planning to take out people I used to work with. I'm planning to take out people I used to hang out with. I'm planning to take out people I used to play soccer with.
Premeditated.
It's insane, bro.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And then, when you talk about the gun retailers, again, just being able to just walk into a store and buy anything I want to buy. And then some of the stuff I don't even, you make me get a license for a handgun, but you won't make me get a license for a rifle.
Right. That's crazy. But you know what, though? You can't have, how they say it takes two to tango? I can dance by myself, but it's better to dance with somebody else.
Yeah, man.
These villains, these gun manufacturers, these gun distributors, these gun retailers, they can't operate without the enablers.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They can't operate without gun lobbyists. They can't operate without Congress, or at least certain members of Congress, basically saying we're not going to change gun laws. We're not going to make it harder for you to get guns. We're not going to put a ban on the type of guns that are released into the public. I don't know how accurate this is, but I've heard it over and over and over again. There are more guns in this country than there are people. What kind of freaking insanity is that?
That's true.
This is America. We're supposed to be the most sophisticated country in the world. We're supposed to be the most moral country in the world. We are the most wealthiest country in the world. What do we gain? I mean, when you stop and look at this country, and we're supposed to be all of that, and then you think about what we're doing to each other as a country, brother, it just doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't add up. And so you look at these, you look at the enablers on the federal level, Congress.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the Republicans in the House who are saying, there's nothing wrong.
Democrats, they're all saying the same thing. They're just doing it differently.
Well, I beg to differ. I haven't heard Democrats say we should not have stricter gun laws. I haven't heard one Democrat say that. Now, but I have heard more than 60% of the Republicans say there's nothing wrong with the gun laws. There's nothing wrong with allowing guns to be accessible. There's nothing wrong with guns being manufactured and distributed throughout the country. All I hear Republicans say is that it's the users of the guns that are the problem, but it's not the gun. And to some extent, that's true. But the other thing that I think is even more true, but they can tell me if I'm wrong, I never in my life saw a gun get up off the table
And go shoot
and
someone.
shoot itself.
Yeah.
I never saw a gun leave the cabinet or the drawer or underneath the bed or behind my pickup truck that I don't even own or want one and float across the street or float across the river or float across the woods and shoot and shoot itself.
Right.
People kill.
People.
People kill.
Yes.
And the tool they kill
what
with
you're
is the
talking about,
guns.
though, with Republican, Democrat, whatever it is, and you're right. I do agree that there are more Republicans that are pushing gun lobbyists. I think there are more Republicans probably in bed with the gun
Well,
companies too.
it's not probably. Did you say you didn't say probably? Did you?
Yeah.
No. Did I hear you say probably?
I said probably.
Something's wrong with my mic. Let me clear my microphone.
So
you said probably,
but when we talk about the Constitution, we have a right to bear arms. That's across the board. Now, I do agree that we have a right to bear arms, but we don't have a right to go kill one another. And I think that that's what the whole thing is when we talk about Democratic, Republican, Congress. Yeah, I just think they're all the same. That's just me personally.
Okay,
but I'm not going to get into the political side of it.
Agreed.
But what they to me they're all the same. And again, when we talk about right to bear arms, to protect my home, yeah, okay, you come in my home, we got a problem. Not to go out and just start hunting people, right? And that's the problem that's going on, is we're going out to start hunting people. And when we start hunting people, when we start doing those things, when we start looking at those things, we're looking at a system that has said, you know what, I don't care. I don't care about humanity. I care about money more than I care about humanity.
So let me ask you this, though.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, it's not a political debate or political discussion. But I do believe there is a very clear distinction between those who are okay with guns being A, accessible, and B, accessible to anybody, as opposed to those who think that it's not a good idea for any and all guns to be as accessible and to be as accessible to just anybody. I do believe there's a very clear distinction between one group of political leaders versus another group of political leaders. And to your point, I don't want to make this political, but the reason why I do think it is important is because I do think that money,
of course,
is the ultimate driver behind the thinking of those who don't want things to stop. If you're kicking back $100,000, $200,000 a year to me, and I'm a assemblyman, a senator, a House representative, and you're kicking back $200,000, $250,000 to me, and I need that money to pay my mortgage. I need that money to take care of my third wife. I need that money to take care of my 4 kids.
Or push my agenda.
Because
that's what's really going on.
Well, but think about it. And again, I don't want to get into politics, but Republicans don't have an agenda. When you stop and think about it, they really don't. What their agenda is to stay in office for the purpose of being able to continue to get kickbacks. Mm-hmm. And so my agenda, politically speaking, would be to make sure I keep getting elected so I can keep getting kickbacks from these different lobbyists, so I can keep getting paid, so I can keep, what did we talk about a couple of weeks ago? Building wealth, okay? So I can keep building wealth, so I can turn that wealth around and give it to my children, to my children's children, so that I can have a legacy and a generation of wealth building, all at the expense of taxpayers, all at the expense of people who vote me in office, and we vote in this block, so to speak. And that's the sad part about this country. That's the sad part about this government, is that it has been allowed to operate in such a corrupt manner the way it has.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And then the those enablers, man, and the gun lobbyists, right? Again, it's. But who's left, man? The victims.
Well, the sad thing, at the end of the day, when the dust is settled, one guy goes home and in his Mercedes, and he rides his, in his yacht, in his boat, and the guy next door is burying his kid.
The guy next door, not the guy and they're just ignoring it. Cold and heartless, when I think about these victims, man, and again, I started it when I opened up. You had 3 teachers and 3 children this week who are gone in the hands of it. And then I still think about every year, we celebrate Sandy Hook. Children that, I mean, who could just have the heart to want to kill a child?
Yeah.
Parents, siblings, grandparents. I mean, the effects that this thing has, man, in impacted communities. And, I'm tired of the moments of silence and prayers. And I can't even tell you, bro, it's getting worse. It's gotten worse. And I used to say, when I was in my 20s, I had a conversation with someone, and by the time I would think I was probably 30, Brett, I had been to more funerals of black brothers than I care to count.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're talking about.
And this is 20 years later.
Yeah.
And it's still going on.
And it's worse.
And it's worse.
Yeah.
And the moral compass of, these, and these are, again, these are kids killing kids.
Right. Right. And in our community, as much as I love my people, as much as I will go to my grave advocating on behalf of my people, loving on my people, we do an incredible disservice to each other in the inner cities with gang violence.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
And gun violence is,
when we go back up to what you just talked about, the haters and the depressed, I mean, the desperate and the haters, right? I mean, you're talking about and again, I'm going, that this is definitely politically planned, that we just drop a bunch of guns in a community and we put some alcohol in that community, and we put some drugs in that community, and we just say, go for it. It's the wild, wild west there. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about gang violence and all of this, I just watched three young men get sentenced for killing a rapper the other day, just heartless, but, I got my brother works in law enforcement. He's a lieutenant in one of the prisons here in New Jersey, but he says something very powerful. They come in at 18 and 19 heartless. And by the time they're 25 and they realize they still got another 25 to go, they break. Because they realize, again, the mentality of some of these young people, again, who have been brainwashed that it's okay to kill, who have done that, from a psychological point, who've never been trained by their parents to love or do any of those things, they just go get a weapon because somebody disrespected me, because I'm killing you because of my color, or the color I wear, or and so we're thinking about all of that. And then again, what we got is another funeral, another young mother crying because she done lost a kid, another impact on the communities that have been affected behind gun violence and behind gang violence and behind all of this. And so we got a new moral majority, which is I don't care.
Right. And that the folks who don't care, they're the immoral majority. They're the ones who are like, you know what, it is what it is. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me. It's not my problem. I don't care. Let somebody else take care of it. Let this one take care of it. The other day, a guy said, and it was I forgot exactly what office he held. I think he was in Tennessee, because the shooting occurred I think he was in Tennessee. The man basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, the man basically said, look, these things happen. Not a whole lot you can do about it. It is what it is. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. And then somebody said, well, do you fear for your children? You know what he said?
No.
He said, it's not funny. He said, oh, no, we homeschool. That's deep. We homeschool. So he doesn't even put his kids in school for probably good reasons. But on the other hand, he has enough. He realizes that if he's homeschooling, his kids can't be subject to somebody losing their mind and break, go into a school and killing. So it's the indifference. It's the indifference. It's the insensitivity. It's the cold-hearted nature, and it's the political agenda. All those four things combined has left this country with an immoral majority, and the immoral majority is going head to head with the what I call the new moral majority. And you know what the new moral majority is? It's the parents
who don't care.
Well, no, it's the parents, it's the families, it's the communities who do care, who suffer with my neighbor because his kid got killed, who suffer with.
Oh yeah. They rally together, but again, we rally together when there's a tragedy, when we should be rallying together before to prevent the tragedy. Again, so what happens is, all right, we're gonna now we got another community wailing in Nashville. We got another community wailing in UVA. We got another community wailing in Michigan. So we rally together for the moment. We put the things in place, but we don't go to Washington where we should go. We don't put we don't lobby the right way, and we don't put our money together the right way so that we can prevent these things from happening. And so when you think about the guy who homeschool, yeah, we don't care. I don't. Yeah, why am I worried about that? Because
right. And again, it's to me, this is another example of what I consider to be the great divide in this country. Once again, it's the have versus the have-nots. It's the rich and powerful versus those who don't have that kind of voice, that kind of power, because they don't have that kind of wealth. Mm-hmm. And you talked a second ago about how we should rally and come together. There are parents who are still mourning the loss of their children who were killed by a mass shooter. And these parents have formed groups, and these groups have gone to Congress. These groups have gone to the White House. These groups have spoken in front of Congress. They've spoken in front of the president. But Malik, again, I know you don't want this to be political, not trying to make it political, but the reason why nothing changes, the reason why nothing gets done is because there is an arm of our government called, how do I say this politely, called conservative right-wing Republicans who basically say it ain't broke, ain't no reason to fix it. And these are the ones whose pockets are being lined. These are the ones who have no solutions. They have no agenda. They have no...
Yeah, you said it earlier. They said they do have an agenda. Their agenda is to continue to get wealthy.
Yeah. And until that changes, and until they change, until the masses get to those people and put pressure on those people and force those people to change their votes and change their narrative and change their thinking and change their ways and basically change their vote, nothing is going to change, brother. Mm-hmm. Nothing is going to change.
That's true.
And that's sad. That's really, really sad. And I know this is something that we didn't plan on talking about, and I know that, but like you said, man, this is, after a while,
you just get tired.
You get tired,
And then we talk about the offender, those who just don't know better.
Yeah.
Right. They've been conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
The mental health patients, the ones who, for whatever reason, this, they don't know.
But see, here's the thing about mental health, and you know this better than anybody. You treat mental health every day. Mm-hmm. When it comes to gun violence, mental health patients are basically the offender on the one hand, but yet they're the victim on the other hand.
Yes.
And you talk about them being the offender.
Right.
Like you said, they don't know.
They don't know better.
They don't know what they're doing.
They're hurt. They're confused. They're angry. They're manipulated. They've been those things themselves. We talked about earlier. You talk about someone who has had mental health issues or something, and you bullied them, and that anger festered in ways, and and did things that they don't understand, and when they got old enough, because that sounds like what happened with this girl when she got old enough to go back to this school. She stewed all that anger and all of those things, and got old enough one day to go back and do some damage because somebody had did damage to her at that school, right?
Right.
And so when we talk about that, the anger that fuels, mental health patients, that blinds them.
Yeah.
It's just a blinding. And so, And again, the convenient scapegoat, the victim, right? So you're putting that on top of it,
Right.
and then the negative stigma of having mental health. So, but again, I want to talk about this when we go back up to these gun lobby, or we go back to these gun retailers. Why aren't mental health tests being done? Why aren't there screenings being done before you can go get any type of gun? You got to take a driver. You got to before you can get a car. You got to take a driver's license. But I can't take a license, a test to go get a gun.
I'm gonna answer your question. Okay, I'm Brett Carroll. I own the general store. I sell a whole lot of products. A very small inventory of my products are guns. But guess what? That small inventory of guns generates 80% of my business. And so do you think I have any morality about me whatsoever? Do you
No.
think I care about,
Especially when I'm all about the money.
you think I care about who comes in here? As long as legal. And see, here's the other thing too, on this, and the state governments are also part and parcel to blame, because state governments have the ability to regulate to some extent, and therefore have the ability to not regulate to a lesser extent.
Exactly.
And so what happens is, in this particular state or that particular state or that particular state, I can walk in and I can, show, I guess, my license. I never bought a gun. I don't care. I don't want to have. I have no idea how to go about getting a gun. But evidently, it ain't that hard. I throw a piece of paper on the.
Not in certain states.
I throw a piece of paper on the counter. I can walk out and buy a gun. So as a retailer, to your point, right? To your point, as a retailer, why would I put myself in a position to walk away from all that revenue when you can turn around and go down the street or go across town to my competitor and buy it from him? And so this thing becomes, and this is why I call this thing a cycle, a system, just an incredible, what's the right word? It's a mechanism, man. This whole thing is just a machine.
Yep.
A gun manufacturer can't earn a nickel unless he can sell the gun to a distributor. The distributor can't earn a nickel until he can get it to the retailer. The retailer can't earn a nickel until he gets it into your hands and my hands, right? So what these enablers do, what Congress, I shouldn't say Congress in general, but what lawmakers have done is they have lobbied to the extent, or what I should say, what these gun manufacturers have done and what these gun distributors have done and what these gun retailers have done. They've hired these $1 million lobbyists. They give them millions of dollars to go into Washington and to lobby for gun access, for less restrictions or no restrictions, access. And they're paying off certain constituents so that things get to stay the way they are. It's
getting ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And when we think about the impact on society, further greater political gain.
Yeah.
Glaring examples of moral versus immoral.
I think, honestly, there are 3 or 4 things in this country that split this country straight in half. And I think gun violence and the lack of gun control is certainly one of them.
Oh, of course.
And so you have a divided country over that, as well as over a few other significant things.
Yeah, racial divide.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And economic
classism,
divide.
economic divide, exactly. Opportunity divide, exactly.
Yeah.
Equity divide, and we've gone through all that before.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that gun violence to me suggests, more than anything else, or as much as anything else, is the whole concept of morality versus immorality. And greed, straight up, absolute greed for money, greed for power, greed to be able to rule and reign over the lives of people. All this to me is impacted our society in those ways as a result of this insanity, this whole thing. It's the rich and the powerful exploiting the system, and just basically exploiting ordinary
people,
everyday people.
Yeah, man. It's ridiculous, man. And when we think about that, we think about the business model, right? The villains exploit the enabler empowers the offender, and the offender killed the innocent victims, right?
Yeah.
And so when we think about that, You know,
That's a mindset, bro.
that's a real serious mindset.
It's a mindset. That's a mentality.
Right? Because I mean, there's no other reason to create a gun but to go kill somebody. Right. I'm not taking a semi-automatic weapon going. I won't even shoot a deer with a semi-automatic weapon, but I can shoot a human being with a semi-automatic weapon. That doesn't make sense, man.
What is the immorality in this whole thing, man?
Yeah, man.
I'm making millions of dollars, basically killing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or allowing people to be killed,
right,
by the thing I make,
right, exactly. And then when we talk about it, right, when will the greedy, rich, powerful give a damn about anything other than profit?
Yeah,
right. I mean, and that's the real that's the scary part about this is that's those people who watched that news or didn't watch it. Oh, okay, that's one of their guns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Did they go to bed last night or this week saying, "Wow, what our guns just took out 3 children and 3 teachers"? They don't think about that. And then we talk about that. When will they put people first and money second? They won't. They won't ever put people first.
You know what? This is a whack thought, but I wonder what would happen. God forgive me for saying this. I wonder what would happen if somebody went into a school and did harm to a child of a assembly person, a House of Representative, a congressman, a senator, who had...
They won't. You know why? Because they're homeschooled. It's because
you know what? That's a good point.
Because they're protected. Because they're not going to allow anyone to get close to their children. Because if you try to get close to them, you're dead.
Yeah.
So that ain't happening.
That's not happening.
That's not happening at all.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, right.
I'm sitting here having this conversation with you, and I'm just wondering what would happen if somebody blew up and walked up in school and took out the daughter or the God forbid, the daughter or the son of one of these. I'm not going to use the word. One of these people,
right,
who stand up on their podiums and say, "It's not the guns, it's the people. It's not the guns, it's the people."
Because the people who got the guns and saying that, they got guns protecting their children.
Yeah.
So you're not going to even get close to one of these kids.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, man, it comes down to what you're talking about. It comes down to just you got to call people out, man.
Yeah.
You got to call people out.
I mean, when we talk about the Republicans, getting them to go out and ask them to vote the bill, to ban gun bills, and all of them, because I mean, I don't know who right now, who's controlling the House right now, but again,
Republicans.
The Republicans are controlling the House again, but it's just continual. So, I mean, this conversation is being had over and over and over again. When we started back with early 1996 when Columbine or whenever that happened, and now we're in 2023 and it's still continuing, right? And so when we talk about that, and then I want to encourage every citizen, especially Republicans, to call out the congressman. Vote yes. Please. We got, again. I am so tired of moments of silence, and I can say that I guess about 3 or 4 times now. I'm tired of it. Let's say another prayer, right, for some family members, some young people, young innocent children.
Yeah, and I just think that this is I think this is one of those things where it requires a bipartisan participation in order to produce a bipartisan solution. Obviously, this isn't going to get solved. It's not going to be resolved. Nothing's going to change. It's never going to get better until both sides come to the table and come to the realization that we're trading dollars for lives. And And if you're, and I know that there are parents who are still suffering from the loss of loved ones. I know there are families and communities still suffering from the tragedies that they've experienced, they've been a part of. And so I know those families are fighting. I know they're resilient and they're resolute in what they're doing and trying to get things changed. But it takes all of us. It takes parents. It takes people over 18 years old who care, who haven't been affected directly by this, to say, yesterday it was you, today it could be me.
I want to just say, Brett, great man. I want to encourage all parents from every city, town, country, state to be intentional, man, to be relentless in demanding the passage of the gun bill. We gotta do it. We this is one of those issues that require bipartisan participation in order to produce a bipartisan solution.
Yeah.
We this country needs to come together before we destroy each other.
Yeah.
And that's something that keeps just ringing home, and with the mental health issues and what's going on in this country, it's just getting more and more demanding. I mean, people are just getting less and less. We're moving away from God more and more.
Right.
We talked, just plug in for, you text me last week about church service. It was so amazing about God's grace and his love and his mercy, and this is one of those times where we need a real God, Brett. We need a real God to show up, because it's getting ridiculous, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good advice, bro. We definitely need to come together before we tear each other apart. That'll do it, bro. That'll do it for us. Thanks to all of you for listening. Please continue to look for us on Monday mornings, early Monday afternoons on our Men to Men Facebook page. That's Men to Men. We have our own Facebook page. You can also catch us on Mondays on Instagram. You can catch us on YouTube and iCloud. And when you check us out, I want you to like us, share us, let us know what you think about the topics that we're talking about. This is a conversation for all of us. It's not just me and Malik. This is our conversation. So we want you to be a part of it. God bless. Take care. Peace out.
Thank you.